And actually, what I realize now watching the game is that Bisu has actually changed the way this matchup is going to be played by virtue of his early scouting. Even though he scouted in the wrong direction, it took a long time for his probe to get into Gorush's base. Because Bisu scouts so early every single time, he was actually able to get in before Gorush had any Zerglies. Even though Gorush went for that earlier spawning pool, for that 9-pool strategy, even though Gorush for that early spawning pool, Bisu was actually able to get his probe in and scout Gorush. And had he not been able to do that, he might not have been as ready for Gorush as he's going to be now that Gorush is going to come in with those Mutalisks, because Bisu's got cannons up everywhere, and he's also got his Stargate build. He's going to have Corsairs, and he's got a couple of Dragoons. So Gorush is not going to be able to do a lot of damage. Since Gorush did go for the fast tech, Gorush is not going to be able to inflict a lot of damage, I feel, with those Mutalisks. And that is absolutely brilliant by Bisu to have actually anticipated that and countered it so well. And Gorush now coming in with those Mutalisks. Bisu does have his Corsairs up, and Gorush is actually ignoring that Corsair and going straight for Bisu's main. Gorush needs to hurt Bisu's economy a little bit here if he's going to have any chance. But Gorush with only 2 Mutalisks is not going to do much, because Bisu's got photon cannons everywhere, and Bisu's also got a Dragoon. Gorush now with a couple more Mutalisks popping out. He needs to do some damage here to Bisu's probes. He needs to hurt Bisu's economy a little bit. And Gorush so far completely toothless in his attack versus Bisu. He's trying to rally his Mutalisks around. He's going to try and take out that Corsair. He should be able to take out that Corsair. So Bisu loses that Corsair. A little bit careless of Bisu. He should have been a little bit more defensive. But Gorush nevertheless has not done any damage to Bisu's economy. And Bisu now with 2 Nexuses, and Gorush only with 2 hatcheries. I think Gorush is in huge trouble here, and he's going to have a difficult time in this match. Bisu now forced to micro those probes away. So Bisu's extra expansion not serving to give him too much of an advantage in terms of economy, but he has got those extra probes that he's produced from it that he's going to be able to use. And Gorush has not killed any probes at all. Gorush needs to kill a few more probes. He needs to kill a few, and Gorush is now setting up an expansion at the 12 o'clock bay expansion, realizing that he's far behind in economy and he needs to catch up. And if he can keep pressure on Bisu and keep Bisu pinned back for a little while, he might be able to do some damage to Bisu's economy. But Bisu is now pumping Corsairs at a fierce rate, and Gorush continues to produce those Mutalisks, and Gorush once again forcing Bisu to run away with those probes. But Bisu's probes, Gorush managed to pick off a couple of probes there, but Bisu is well defended. He's got photon cannons everywhere, and Gorush, I feel, is a little bit behind. You've got to feel that Bisu has a little bit of an advantage here, because Gorush has only now gotten that 3rd hatchery up, and Bisu is going to be reaping the advantage of that Nexus. And I think Bisu actually was quite brilliant here, because he realized with that scout that Gorush was going for the tech, and he adapted his strategy accordingly to counter. Instead of going for that Nexus, which is probably what he was planning to go for by putting up that early forge, he actually went for tech so that he would be able to keep up with Gorush in tech, and that Gorush wouldn't be able to establish an advantage over him. And had Bisu not adapted and done that, then Gorush would probably have been the one with the advantage in the game thus far. Bisu has now built up a sizable force of Corsairs, and again, if he hadn't teched as quickly as he did, with 2 Stargates, he's pumping those Corsairs out. If he hadn't teched as quickly as he did, he would be really struggling to hold Gorush off, and Bisu now going for that Citadel of Idon, so you've got to feel that he's going to have Dark Templar popping out. He's going to be going for Templar again. Actually, he didn't go for Dark Templar last game, so he probably just wants to get a few High Templar up for defense. But Gorush now has got that 3rd hatchery up at the 12 o'clock position. If Gorush can continue to build on that in terms of economy, he might be able to climb himself back into this game. The game very finely balanced right now. I would give Bisu a little bit of advantage. Gorush does have air superiority, but Bisu pumping from those 2 Stargates, this is air superiority of Gorush is not going to last for very long. Gorush with the help of Scourges and Mutalisks keeping Bisu pinned back in his base, and that's exactly what he needs to do. And again, the Scourge is going great micro by Gorush. He manages to take off one of the Corsairs, and he needs to keep Bisu's Corsairs numbers down while he builds up his economy, because Bisu is producing them at a fierce rate, and if Bisu can establish air superiority with the close proximity of the bases, Gorush is going to be very vulnerable to drops, and he's going to find it difficult to defend himself on this map, considering that he didn't build that 3rd hatchery at his ramp. He's going to find it very difficult to defend, even in terms of the ground on the ground, because he's going to be forced to defend at multiple locations, and he's going to be vulnerable at multiple locations. Gorush now starting to produce Hydralisk. Gorush making the switch to Hydralisk, and that seems to me that he is ceding control of the air to Bisu by changing his focus to Hydralisk. And Bisu now with Templar Archives, and Gorush is going to find himself in a little bit of trouble here, because Bisu's air superiority, Gorush is going to be forced to be on the defensive now when Bisu counters finally. Bisu has got his defense shored up. He has got that Nexus finally mining again. He's got more than enough Corsairs now, and Gorush is trying to take out that pylon. Bisu is in a little bit of trouble though, because Bisu is pinned back in his base, even though he's got the Templar Archive coming. Gorush with the use of Scourges and Mutalisks. The fact that Gorush isn't producing Mutalisks anymore, and that Bisu is continuing to pump out Corsairs, does to me suggest that Bisu is the one who's going to have the air superiority as this matchup progresses. Gorush has got that expansion up and running, and Gorush now with a lot of Hydralisks, but he does not have upgraded Overlords. He needs to upgrade the speed of those Overlords, because Bisu is going for Corsair Templar again, as he did in the last game. In the last game though, Bisu did not continue to produce Corsairs. He produced a few and then made a switch to ground and really did a little of everything and a lot of nothing. And in the end ended up giving the advantage to Gorush. Gorush trying to harass once again Bisu's economy, but Bisu has got his defenses in place, and Bisu continued to build up a sizable air force with those courses, and Bisu finally feeling he has enough, and he pushes out with those courses, and he forced Gorush back. Gorush does have a lot of Hydralisk though, and he's got his overlord speed upgraded, so perhaps Gorush is going to be gearing up for a drop here. Gorush is actually loaded up those overlords, so Gorush is actually going to go for a drop. Gorush is actually going for a drop tech, and Gorush is going to try and drop Bisu's main, but Bisu is actually countering it. Bisu, I don't know how he's anticipating this, but Bisu's courses are coming in, and those overlords are filled with Hydralisk, and Gorush is losing the overlords. He needs to drop those Hydralisk, and Gorush dropping those overlords down, and Gorush in big trouble. He's lost all of his overlords, and Bisu has inflicted massive damage to Gorush here. Gorush has lost a lot of his Hydralisk, and he lost all of his overlords, and Gorush is going to find it difficult to replace those losses. Bisu has firmly given himself an advantage with that maneuver. Gorush is now going to try and kill off those courses to try and nullify, and Gorush just calls GG. Gorush throws in the towel very early. I felt the game was far from over, even though Bisu had given himself a huge advantage with that. Gorush still had a decent economy. Bisu didn't have a lot of ground forces on the ground. He didn't have a lot of gateways, but Gorush conceding the game too early, and that's GG. Well played by Bisu. I'm surprised Gorush called GG there.